Welcome to the Ebony Ivory Aryans show. I'm your host, John Nugent, and Jim Rawls is my co-host. Jim, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How is everyone in the world today? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is in your part of the world. John, doing fine. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, but that rude train outside the house is outrageous. I'm going to call F.Lee Bailey. We'll sue.
It's the man you need, that's for sure.
The Union Pacific Railroad will make millions.
And then we got to do something about well, we're lucky because we had some technical difficulties, but he saved the day. Slid home safely.
Well, yeah, you know, the electricity went off briefly, but I got that little gerbil running in the cage again. Sorry, folks, we're about a minute late. We had a last-second power outage, but we're back on. I understand you have some news items for us again tonight, Jim.
Yeah, we have a few. Listen, John, in New Delhi, India, actually probably their most famous...
That's my favorite deli.
New Delhi,
New Delhi, India.
Not the New Delhi.
Okay.
No, we're talking about New Delhi, India.
Well, these trains here, they're so inconsiderate, these trains. We need a ban on trains.
I don't want you to start thinking about pastrami sandwiches and things of that nature.
Well, I love it. And Rubens.
And, that's good. Anyway, let me
Rubens are not anti-Semitic. Because Rubens is one of the tribes of
corned
Israel.
Beef.
Yeah, corned beef.
There you go, man. All right. Anyway, India's most famous prisoner of conscience actually has walked free after 14 years in jail, and her name is Aram Shamilia. She's 42 years of age, but she has not eaten any food. She's on a hunger strike since the year 2000.
Well, that's interesting. Is she claiming this may not be just a joke story, because there have been various holy people who have said that they can withdraw energy called prana from the universe. There was actually a nun in Bavarian Germany in the 1920s, and nobody ever saw her eat at all. And it was sort of amazed. So this is possible.
They can't say it about me, John. I can tell you that.
Well, I mean, it's a great way to stay slim and trim. Eat nothing.
Wouldn't be too much fun, though.
Is that what she's saying?
Well, actually,
she really ate nothing.
She had to be force-fed. They were charging her with suicide.
And
she had to be force-fed by the government. And what she was protesting, Indian law that suspends many of the human rights and protection in many of the areas of conflict in India. And so it's really a prisoner of conscience.
Oh, I see.
She's actually vowed to continue her hunger strike.
Oh, really?
Now, I'm for solving problems. But I can't solve a problem on an empty stomach, John. I just can't do it.
Well, so I have to take my hat off to this woman for 14 years.
14 years. Just the year 2000.
Wow.
And every time she won't eat, they put her back in jail, considering herself trying to commit suicide.
Which is a crime, I guess. Yeah,
well, you can go to jail if you kill yourself.
Oh, yeah.
It's a crime.
You end up somewhere,
Right. Well, no, it is a crime to kill yourself.
Oh, really? Yeah. You end up with a record. You can't have a gun.
That's right.
You can't drive a car.
That's right. Even though you're gone. But, she vowed it. But, it makes me think back to the conflict with Northern Ireland and former Bobby Sands.
Yes, starved himself to death.
Right, starved himself to death. That's something that occurred in the 60s. It's something I always remember. But, people choose ways of protesting and bringing attention to particular problems. And I admire that. I couldn't do it. There's no way it's possible that I can do that.
Well, I would say that one thing which I don't approve of is that they force feed a lot of prisoners. The United States does that in Guantanamo, and the British now do that in England.
Right.
So it's because they don't want martyrs. But I think if a person has a right to not eat if they don't want to, and a right to protest.
I'd say you have a right not to eat if you don't want to. Of course.
And particularly if you're imprisoning somebody, they're keeping a human being in a cage, and if this person is not a common criminal, but whether it's a revolutionary or he calls himself a freedom fighter.
Well, it's actually a woman, so.
A woman in this case, but Bobby Sands was
Bobby Sands,
with the Irish Republican Army.
Right. I remember Bobby Sands.
He really did starve himself to death. I remember that.
He really
did.
And
several others.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, that's a way of bringing attention to your problem. It's not how I'd handle it, but Nevertheless, many have done that.
Well, maybe I'll go on a hunger strike for a couple of days anyways.
Yeah. I tried...
for a noble cause of losing a few pounds.
I tried overnight, and I'll break my fast in the morning.
Well, that's what they call it, breakfast. Breakfast,
Anyway, hey, speaking of food, 16-year-old Eagle Scout from Franklin, Idaho, named Jackson Hobbs, was given because he became an Eagle Scout, he was given a fishing trip to Alaska by his grandfather.
And an eagle snatched him while he was there.
But this is what he did. He bought a $10 ticket to enter what was called the Homer Jackpot Halibut Derby. And it's actually going on until September the 15th. However, Mr. Hobbs, 16 years old, caught a 335-pound halibut.
Oh my God, in Alaska.
Yes, 335 pounds in Homer, Alaska. The contest ends on the 15th, but I don't know. He's going to be tough to beat, John.
335. Can you imagine? He's 16 years old, this boy.
Right, 16 years of age.
Boy, he must be built like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, he's not.
To bring that reel that thing in.
I think he had a little help, but nevertheless, he's the one that snatched him. No, he didn't look like Schwarzenegger to me. He looked more like your common 16-year-old. That's all.
My God! So halibut is that a good eating fish?
I've eaten it.
Butter
Tastes pretty good.
Pretty good?
I've eaten halibut before.
Well, you want to write him an email and say, "I'll help you with that."
Yeah, I'll help you with dispose of that halibut.
If there's any of that 300 pounds you were planning on using.
We went from somebody who's not eating at all to a 335 pound.
You see, America's next overweight teenager.
So anyway, but good luck to Jackson Hobbs.
Yeah.
Again from Franklin, Idaho, and hopefully he'll win the contest. I can't see anybody come rigging one in a little better than that. He's well out in front.
Yeah. Pack it in everybody else.
Right. Well, again, many of you have heard our broadcast. You know that we're near Pittsburgh. I, Jim Rawls, personally, if you ever seen my blood is black and gold. I do bleed black and gold. And that's the Pirates, the Steelers, the Penguins in particular. We say that because of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are instantly playing right now against the Philadelphia Eagles. However, something very interesting happened yesterday, right before the game. Well, actually, before the players board their plane.
Some of the choir boys in the Steelers choir.
Some of the choir boys got caught choiring. Well, actually, it was our two top running backs, Le'Veon Bell and LeGarrette Blount.
You see all these French names here, just like Denucent, Le'Veon, LeGarrette. See, the French is the coming thing now.
There you go. So, and there was Le'Veon was driving down the street in his black Camaro.
Okay, black is the big color in Paris, this year. It makes you look slim. So he was driving his black Camaro.
That's right.
Which cops were already watching any Camaro.
Especially a black man driving it.
Okay.
I'm just telling you the truth. Yeah. Driving while black is an issue.
I tell you, I drove a blue Camaro while white and wearing a business suit and a trench coat, and a cop pulled me over, gave me a $50 ticket because my rear license plate light was out. $50 ticket. And that 20 years ago, $50 was a lot of money. Still is. But I tell you, it was the Camaro that set him off. And when I used to come out of the weightlifting gym where I would lift weights, I'd find people would key my car. And with keying, what that means is they take the car keys and they'll just scratch it to put it in a very visible place.
It's terrible.
It's just like these young punks. They think it's like some big phallic object or you're boasting or something.
Right.
And it was an animal. And my hell only ended when I got rid of that Camaro.
Wow.
So some cars will set off cops and other people who have like a masculinity hang up. Like this is a challenge to them that you drive a Camaro. So I got rid of it and I got myself a Toyota Corona station wagon, beige.
Yeah, I've always gone for the types of cars that kind of blend in and just if they stick out, the cops. Of course, I've never felt protected and served by the police at any time in my life, including now. And we'll talk about that a little later. But
Some of them are okay, but many of them some of them throw their weight around, you know.
Well, you got to remember, as I told you yesterday, if you hadn't noticed, that I'm an African American male.
No. Yeah, but I'm a white nationalist.
Yeah, people are really trying to figure out what we're doing together. You know,
maybe we're both human beings and we're friends, and we both want what is best for the whole human species.
So I told him, I said, we're a comedy team. What's the problem?
Some people find it a very comical notion, but no, more and more white people are experiencing also heavy-handed cops, police brutality. I've done several videos on this, and of course, one of the issues again is it makes so many people into criminals. They're busting people for smoking marijuana.
No, that's the thing. What happened was the motorcycle officer, the officer on a motorcycle bike, smelled a whiff of marijuana. Yeah. And he thought it was coming from the Camaro. Yeah. And he pulled him over, and of course it was. Mm-hmm. And the sad part is now they had less than an ounce on them. They had 20 grams, which if anybody knows, 28 grams makes an ounce. If you went to high school, you should know that, I guess. But plus, that makes it a misdemeanor in the state of Pennsylvania. However, the way the police officer treated Mr. Bell and Mr. Blunt, and no pun intended. Yeah. No, the Blunt. Yeah. That was his last name. You know, black guys like to smoke blunts.
Blunts, I do know that. Well, it's a cigar they bore out the center of it, with marijuana in it.
Right, it's called a blunt. Yeah, I know. Even though LeGarrett's last name was Blunt, there's no, no relationship. Yeah. However, they were pulled over. Mr. Bell was actually handcuffed and taken to UPMC Hospital. University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, to get a blood test, to get his blood drawn, to see if he was driving under the influence of marijuana. And I would have told the police I was rather obvious. Didn't you smell it? But anyway.
So how much money did that cost then? It's probably $250.
Right, exactly. And
so this cop, he could have been looking for rapists and murderers or pedophiles. Right. You know.
And meanwhile, there's two guys, and there was a young lady in the back. All of them were very cooperative. They all said, the pot belonged to them. But the interesting thing about that, now that's in the news and it's going all over the place, but the last two Super Bowl teams that played for the NFL last year, the Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks, if you know, in the state of Washington, marijuana is now legal. If you know, in the state of Colorado, marijuana is now legal. So I'm not quite sure how the Roger Goodell, the emperor of the NFL, that's the only word I can really use for him, will handle this situation. Because really what was overlooked, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm always honest with you, but as a kid, 19, 20 years old, we had no choice but to drive around. When I was a young kid, I'm from the Woodstock generation. I certainly wasn't going to be in my parents' house smoking, that's for sure. So we drove around. That's what we did, and we all turned out all right. And it's unfortunate because, again, marijuana is not, we'll talk about this. In fact, why don't, John, let me hear your point of view on marijuana right now.
Well, I'm running for mayor here in Apollo, Pennsylvania. And the mayor, it's not a very powerful position for the boroughs. It's a Class D city. It's very small. There's 1,600 people here. Basically, the mayor controls the police department. He doesn't even run the town council meetings. The town council president does that. But of course, the police is a very important thing in a small town. You have drunks, you have domestic violence, you have out-of-control dogs and kids, people speeding, we'd have murderers, rapists, whatnot. And it is very important, the police department. I am advocating that we decriminalize marijuana or not enforce the marijuana laws in this town, in this borough. Now, I don't smoke marijuana. Way back when I lived in New Orleans, in the Big Easy, Party Central USA, in 1989, 1990, I was always a conservative Republican, and law and order and pot is diabolical, dangerous drug and all that stuff, because I was raised that way. And my dad was a big, strict Marine and executive, and he was friends with President Nixon and Ronald Reagan and other people. So I was raised that pot was somehow somewhat dangerous. Only hippies and strange people who didn't have any work ethic and were lazy.
Well, excuse me, sir, I was a hippie.
Yeah.
But do you think I had work ethic? Obviously, I had to.
Well, see, I really didn't know anybody who smoked it, but that was what we were told.
Right.
So anyways, I gave a political speech, and my then girlfriend, I mentioned crack, cocaine, and pot in the same breath. And she said after, John, people are just like smirking. He says, you can't compare a drug that makes people hyper-violent.
Right.
And
those
pot,
are drugs.
which is the opposite effect. He says, look, you got to at least try it once so you know what the heck you're talking about, because everybody's tried it. So, okay, I tried 25 years ago, and she had me listen to some music and whatnot. It was okay.
It takes time to acclimate. People don't realize you don't get high the first time you smoke.
Yeah.
You actually have to smoke several times before your body does acclimate to get high. Because the first time I ever tried, I was like, what's this? I have no idea. But about the third time.
You have to become a real pothead.
Right.
Your brain has to be taken over
by
cannabis, THC.
Right. And again, I still say this. When people are sitting around smoking pot, I never saw anybody fight.
Well, that's
Not
true.
at all.
My daughter got in a little bit of trouble at the University of Vermont, and they were pretty strict back then. The idea was in loco parentis, which means Latin, the university is in the place of the parents. The university then makes sure you don't drink or do drugs and whatnot. She got into some scrapes actually with the university administration, and of course I chided her, and then said this is wrong and all that. And she says, Dad, have you ever heard of a drunken brawl? I said, well, of course, my dear, we're Irish. And she said, have you ever heard of a potting brawl? No.
No, you haven't.
People don't get violent under the influence of pot. Now, I can't say this. I have seen people become mean and verbally violent under the influence of gin and whiskey.
Oh, my goodness.
Mel Gibson used to, he grew up in Australia, although he's American, and he would take a pitcher of beer and pour a fifth of whiskey in it. He called it liquid violence. I wonder why.
Yeah.
But pot has never made anybody violent.
I've never seen it happen.
I have seen...
I've never seen anybody get killed. No one has ever stolen anything.
I've seen people verbally violent and physically violent under the influence of alcohol.
Or the drugs themselves, too. Cocaine, heroin. I've seen people really just... I don't know, it's like they're in their own universe. I never saw a heroin addict up close and personal until a few years ago. Really, it was hard to talk to them because, you'd say something, they take you out of context, and next thing you know...
They're explosive.
Right, they're explosive. Right.
They can kill you or...
Right, exactly.
So really, and again, I'm not advocating marijuana use. I don't smoke marijuana. I don't plan to in the future. And I tried it because I was urged to gain some experience with what I was talking about 25 years ago. So the one aspect is this. Alcohol is far more dangerous than marijuana. Now, a little bit of alcohol can be good. The Bible even
anything
says,
in moderation.
Wine maketh the heart glad is one of the proverbs in the Old Testament. The first miracle of our Lord Jesus Christ was in fact at the wedding in Cana to turn water into wine.
Right.
So obviously in moderation, it's a wonderful thing. A friend of mine who's a white nationalist, he helped me with my video and my writing on the Mary Fagan case down in Georgia 100 years ago. He said to me, when I smoked pot, I lost all will to accomplish anything. And then my response to him was, well, if it affected you that way, then you should definitely not smoke it. But I know people who do smoke it, and they haven't lost the will to get up and go to work, or have dreams and accomplish projects.
Well, let me tell you a little personal story, John. When I went to college at Indiana University of Pennsylvania, my freshman year, this is true, John. I did not smoke. I mean, anything. I did not swear. I honestly did not swear, and I did not drink. Okay? Now, my freshman year, I was on the baseball team. Of course, when I played ball, I would never smoke. There's no way, because I was anti-athletic in my mind. I had some difficulties my first semester. Then the second semester, I met some people, and I began to party a little bit. John, this is the truth.
Yeah.
The more I partied, the better my grades got.
Because your mood was better.
Well, probably it made me relax.
Yeah,
I was probably uptight. Remember I told you my freshman year on the baseball team, I got a fastball on the jaw.
Oh, yeah.
And it broke my jaw. So I was done with all that as a freshman. And then the second semester, I just developed friendships and started partying. And it just seemed like then, the more I partied, the better my grades got. That's the truth. When I started partying, my grades got better. They really did.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because you and I have been friends for 2 years. When I drink, and I drink in moderation, it's just more of me. I'm a friendly guy. I'm a little bit more friendly.
Right.
But my personality doesn't change.
No.
I consider myself, people consider me a likable guy, maybe even a little more likable. And with you, you're a people person like I am.
Right.
It made you more sociable.
That's all.
And I think probably being an African-American kid in an overwhelmingly white college, and you're way out in the sticks, it was good to loosen up a little bit.
Oh, most definitely. I'm kind of glad. There are things that I did when I was that age that I wouldn't do today. However, it did help me and it relaxed me. So you can't say that marijuana takes initiative away from someone. As a general statement, anything can happen to each individual. Everyone's body is not cut out to be. And, back in the, early 70s, we used to act like you were not cool if you don't smoke, but that's not the way it is. I know a lot of so-called cool people.
Yeah.
And my friends over the years who don't smoke anymore, they just don't.
Yeah.
And that doesn't change their personality and the way they are has not changed as a result of the fact that they may have stopped smoking over the years.
Well, I think if you're going to do any kind of recreational drug, and alcohol is a drug, there's no question about it. In fact, if alcohol were introduced today, I don't know if the Food and Drug Administration would approve it.
I'm telling you,
It might not.
More wars have been fought, and more. People have been killed, not just by automobile, but in the house, gunfire and things that have occurred by alcohol.
I have a dear relative who was an outstanding member of the community, very respected, and after a third gin, cutting mean things would come out of his mouth. And then people would say, it's the gin talking.
Right.
So he needed to stay away from gin.
Right.
But he was fine on wine and beer and other things. In fact, the German philosopher Nietzsche said the Germans should actually drink less beer. He says beer makes people just stupid. And he says wine makes people witty. And he felt that whiskey made people violent. So they are different molecules.
Well, but again, I think it's different strokes for different folks.
Absolutely.
I love the taste of a beer on a hot afternoon sometimes. Everything in moderation. That is the key, is moderation.
Right.
But I'm not advocating anything, but what I am saying is I think it was wrong the way that police officer made criminals out of the two running backs for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, apparently it's a misdemeanor, so it's not a felony. But when we have about 2 minutes left until our first break, 6-minute break. But I'd like to talk in the second half more about what people have reported to me about the cancer-fighting effects of the key ingredients, which is THC or cannabis. And one thing that really shocked me, I've had people absolutely swear to me, not only if you're on chemotherapy does it help with the nausea, but it will actually fight the cancer.
I've heard that as well. I know people with glaucoma. Yeah. I know people with other diseases that they say that marijuana does help them. Yeah. Some of the ball players who play in the NFL, you're playing hurt most of the time. Yeah. They say that it actually helps them with regard to injury.
Really?
So they don't have to take these painkillers or, take different shots of, because again, and I'm not trying to be funny about this, but a doctor once said to me, Jim, do you do any street drugs? And I could definitely say no, because anything I ever did came straight from the farm. No, but anyway.
Right, yeah. Marijuana is hemp. It's the hemp plant. The U.S. Constitution was
and there's no processing. Hemp. With cocaine and heroin is processed and it's cut. And if a person took pure heroin, they would be dead. I think the heroin, I believe it's about 3% heroin, pure heroin, that people actually take. If they took pure heroin, they wouldn't make it.
Oh, I know.
So what I'm saying is, again, those drugs, being synthetic, there's a lot of synthetic materials in there. They cut it. They're trying to make extra money, and you don't have that with marijuana. Marijuana is a plant, and again, the worst thing that marijuana does to people, I think, is, we used to call it, give you the munchies.
You want to eat, pick out the refrigerator.
Yeah, you get a little hungry, right. But again, you can beat that too, if you choose. It does not, again, how you handle yourself is with your own will, and has nothing to do with what's outside your body.
Yeah, well, that's my impression as well. When we come back from a break, I'd like to talk more about the cancer-fighting effects of this, and talk about the whole police state, where they're going to turn everybody into a felon eventually. And this also applies to the DUI, driving.
That's what I was saying yesterday with the football players. I'm very disturbed about how they were pulled over. That was not necessary. It really wasn't. And, I really think that police officer, well, I just use the word, was an AH. Because there really wasn't, he made these people criminals, even though it's a misdemeanor. But you know how the media is.
Okay, folks, we'll be back in 6 minutes at 34 after the hour. After a break, stay tuned to the Ebony Ivory Aryans Show.
Thank you, folks.
Now you can feel that squeaky clean sensation like none other with Vitamer toothpaste and mouthwash. Vitamer toothpaste and mouthwash is a unique natural formula not found in any other oral care products. With a gentle combination of zinc, folic acid, myrrh, and clove oil, Vitamer effectively whitens teeth, removes plaque, and freshens breath, and it does it naturally without any harmful chemicals. Visit us online at Vitamer.com. That's VITAMYR.com. Or call us today to place your order at 1-888-558-8482. That's 1-888-558-8482. Keep your teeth and gums healthy with Vitamer toothpaste and mouthwash. Vitamer, nature's answer to healthy teeth and gums. And remember, it's all completely natural. Available at participating health food stores nationwide.
Hi, folks. People are starting to get serious about their health. This is exciting. Listen to one of our health partners.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and I live in Arizona. I'm a certified personal trainer, fitness instructor, and weight loss specialist. I believe that exercise and a healthy diet are the main keys in physical fitness. As you know, our food industry has been compromised, and Life Change Tea is 100% organic and is specifically designed to help cleanse your body on a daily basis. I try to encourage all of my clients to drink Life Change Tea to help them jumpstart their fitness goals. I really would recommend that you make Life Change Tea your partner on your journey to a healthy lifestyle.
There you go. So make the choice, make the call. Call us at 928-308-0408. That's 928-308-0408. Or you can log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. 928-308-0408. Get excited, get healthy, get the tea.
Hello, I have something I'd like to share with you. LisaKCandles.com is an all-natural soybean candle alternative. Before I found Lisa K Candles, I had lingering soot and allergens in my home. Not today. My Lisa K candles are clearly a difference to see and breathe. And you know, that's a good peace of mind. LisaKCandles.com is an all-natural soybean candle, handmade from their popular line of fragrances. And guys, these candles make a perfect gift. Order an all-natural soy candle from LisaKCandles.com. I'm glad I did, and I know you will be too. Visit LisaKCandles.com. That's Lisa, the letter K, candles.com. Or call 731-441-3293. That's 731-441-3293.
Listening to The Micro Effect, micro broadcasters covering 194,000 square miles and bringing the people's voice to little towns all across America.
Okay, what we're talking about is marijuana, and should it still be legal in this country? I've had many people who were hippies back in the 60s tell me that Thomas Jefferson and George Washington grew hemp. Hemp makes wonderful clothing. You can only get hemp products from Canada or China or other countries. It's illegal in the United States to grow hemp. Except in World War II, they needed rope. That makes fantastic rope. And the U.S. Navy needed a lot of rope. So they lifted the ban so that they could make rope in World War II. But then they rebanned it. But I've had friends who've had hemp clothing, and the hemp is absolutely wonderful. It has a rough, slightly rough feel to it,
Right.
but a sheen.
Right. Almost in Texas, they have the stores where you can buy clothes made of hemp.
It was beautiful. It's sturdy. It's a wonderful product, and we're importing it from Canada. And the Canadians are doing this like we do. They don't ban hemp. They're very simple. Go to Canada, man. They're playing baseball, playing football. They got Little League, they're eating hamburgers, and they're speaking English, or some speak French and whatnot. They're very similar country to us. The red lights like red, the yellow and green, just like ours. And hemp is not illegal. And in many areas in Canada now, more and more states in the United States, marijuana, not just medical marijuana, but marijuana is legal.
Right.
And I'm not trying to be too far ahead of the public on this, and I don't smoke pot myself, but I have had so many people tell me that it fights cancer. Here in Apollo, we have a huge problem with cancer.
That's correct.
Because the Israelis created an illegal smuggling operation at a nuclear fuel plant, and as I have proven on my mayoral campaign website, johnhughes.net, they smuggled 600 pounds of enriched uranium to Israel. And as I contend, and I believe I've proven, when President John Kennedy found out about it, then the Israelis was furious. He didn't want anybody in the Middle East to have nuclear weapons. The Israelis then joined a huge coalition of people who hated John Kennedy, who all wanted John Kennedy dead. The mafia, right-wing Cubans, members of the military-industrial complex who wanted to make money off the Vietnam War, which is then started. Kennedy did not want us to be involved in Vietnam. J. Edgar Hoover, the CIA, Lyndon Johnson especially, Kennedy had powerful enemies. And the Israelis joined this long list of people who wanted Kennedy dead.
You know, John F. Kennedy, 7 days prior to his death, made a comment that there was a conspiracy to enslave every woman, man, and child in the United States. And 7 days later, he was dead.
He was dead. He also gave a speech about secret societies. And people right below it on YouTube, it's the famous JFK Secret Society speech. And people say, oh, he's talking about communism. Wait a minute, communism is not a secret society.
That's for sure.
Soviet Union was not a secret country.
We had Cold War. I mean, they've never heard of the Cold War.
They had 30,000 tanks.
Right. They were somebody to deal with. Plus, not only was the Soviet Union, you know, there was China, North Korea, Cuba. So that's for sure. There was no secret. Especially since Karl Marx wrote about it many years ago, there's been no secret since.
So he talked about the secret society. Anyways, the Israelis dumped radioactivity all over this town. They literally flushed plutonium down the toilet. And I talked with a local professional who told me there's actually a sewage pool near the sewage works along the river with a little yellow radioactive signs. They found the Israelis were flushing plutonium and uranium literally down the toilet. That's how little they cared about safety.
Well, John, listen, that's not even the worst thing they did.
Yeah.
The worst thing that they did was they used the people of Apollo as human guinea pigs. Those people that first worked in the NUMEC plant, they wanted to be able to see how much plutonium or uranium had an effect on the human body without any protection. And many of those people have suffered. You know, using people as a guinea pig without their knowledge. Again, to go back to the Tuskegee experiment.
We may have just lost our connection to Skype there. I apologize to our listeners, but we're back on.
Oh, okay. But I was saying that the worst things that the Israelis did when they had NUMEC originally was to use the people of Apollo as human guinea pigs to see how much radiation a human body can take without protection.
Yeah.
And to me, that's second-degree murder.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly it's not just negligent homicide, but it's deliberate homicide.
Right.
And Zalman Shapiro was 94 years old, multimillionaire, living in a very wealthy, heavily Jewish section called Oakland in Pittsburgh, next to Squirrel Hill, a very Jewish area. He's getting prizes. He was the past president of the Pittsburgh chapter of the Zionist Organization of America, personal friends with the first prime minister of Israel. And so we have a huge cancer problem in this town. And so I'm not advocating pot. I'm saying if it helps you relax and it doesn't harm your character, it doesn't make you lazy,
right.
If it doesn't make you pig out too much in the fridge, a lot of people can work on their weight. If that's not an issue for you, I'd rather see somebody smoke pot than drink whiskey or bourbon or beer
or any of these other drugs.
Fist fights.
All these, the heroin,
especially.
And methadone, nothing but just fake heroin or something. The Oxycontin. I mean, the drugs that are going on around here in the United States right now is terrible. But again, we have to look at the symptoms of why people are doing this. So that's for another show. Yeah. Why are people? Because again, heroin is not a recreational drug, but yet 80% of the population, we all know this, was originally intended for African Americans in the ghetto, but chickens came home to roost. Now the 80% of the people who are heroin addicts are actually white people.
Yes, and that's been proved. Scientific studies have come out.
Right, exactly.
Now, you were telling me, because you know more about, you've had more contact with people who have had heroin junkies and whatnot. I've known a few.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I've known a few. But I think you were saying to me, Jim, that heroin seems to relieve anxiety.
Well, I was told a long time ago that heroin was the greatest anxiety reliever in the world.
Yeah.
Now, the problem is that it does change your physiology and you become physically hooked on it.
Yeah.
And
you gotta have it.
It's not cocaine. You become psychologically hooked, but you can beat it without actually even going to rehab. Cocaine is something, if you really want to stop, if you want to stop bad enough, you will stop. Rehab, a lot of people I know to rehab, they come out of rehab and do it twice or 3 times as much. The more they go to rehab and they come out, the more they do it. It gets worse. When they go back on it the second time, it's worse. When they go to rehab again, and they come back out, and they do it again, and it's worse more than that. So it just continues to get worse and worse and worse. Whereas you don't have that problem with marijuana. My mother-in-law, who we love, we call her Mama, Miss Anna Faulkner, I want to say her name, she's no longer alive, but she had glaucoma. And she took marijuana pills.
Oh, I see.
And it helped her in that way. And I'm sure there are, many times when they do tests on marijuana, they're looking for negative results. They used to use monkeys, and they would give them a monkey the equivalent of about 4 or 5 ounces in an hour's time. Of course, they have
one monkey.
That's right. I mean, the way they would do it, of course. I mean, somebody sat in. That's all they did. Smoked the whole ounce. I mean, I wouldn't want to mess with them either.
A little monkey.
They just blowing it at him.
So how did the monkey behave after this incredible amount of
well, the way they expected, lethargic. But again,
no work ethic. He didn't go to work.
Yeah, no work ethic.
He didn't. His boss kept getting after him at the monkey factory.
He kept wanting bananas.
You sit back, throw the banana peel aside. He did not act like a proper monkey.
That's right. That's right. So, but again, there are some positive uses. Again, in the country, people have been smoking marijuana, whether it's legal or not. So what are you going to do? It's better.
Let's make criminals out of everybody. That's the Republican answer. Crack down.
It saddened me on KDK, which is a radio, which is affiliate of CBS here in Pittsburgh.
It's the first radio station in the United States.
That is right. That is correct. That's right.
KDK. And just a little side thing: west of the Mississippi, all the radio and TV stations begin with K. East of the Mississippi, they all begin with W. But before they started that rule, the first radio station in the United States was KDK. It was just about the only radio station that begins with the K. East of the Mississippi.
Actually broadcast the Hindenburg.
It's a fun fact.
That's excellent. Oh, I like that. Now when I look at KDK or WPXI or WTAE, I'll understand why. So no, that's great. But KDK on their radio show, I don't remember the radio host, but his attitude was just let all the heroin addicts die. But I don't think he realized that he might have been talking about his own kids at that time. Because a lot of people think it's only in the inner city when it's not. They know now. Especially the problem that we have here. This is called Armstrong County in Pennsylvania, and right next to us is Westmoreland County. There have been so many deaths due to heroin and so many robberies due to heroin. As I mentioned yesterday, unfortunately, my stepsons lost one of their best friends due to heroin. Well, he was shot to death, but he had a long history of heroin addiction.
Terrible. Well, I mentioned this near the beginning. We're like on our 17th or 18th show now, Jim. But one of our first shows, I told about a heartrending story. I was in a little restaurant up in Leechburg, down the river here, and a very nice young kid told me a story. Grew up in a Marine Corps family, and I'll just repeat it very quickly because it was really shocking to me. Because the Marine Corps stands for discipline and obedience and following the rules. If there's one thing you learn in the Marines is to obey orders. Well, okay, so his father was sent to Iraq for the first Gulf War, and his mother, he was a heroin junkie. He was doing heroin while he was a soldier, a Marine in Iraq. His mother was also a heroin junkie. This is in Camp Lejeune, one of the 2 giant Marine Corps bases. The other one is Camp Pendleton in California. There's another one in Okinawa, Japanese Island, and they're very smaller bases, but Camp Lejeune is a big base, very important Marine base. So 2 active junkies in the Marine Corps. Well, that blew my mind, first of all. Now, to support her habit, she became a prostitute and she was having men over to the house while her husband was fighting for America in Desert Storm. She was turning tricks for her heroin habit and becoming skinny skank, basically.
Right.
And she was so zonked out, she locked the two boys, this boy and younger brother, in their bedroom, and she would just slide a pie plate full of Cheerios and water under the door, and she wouldn't let them out, and they had to defecate and urinate in the corner of the bedroom. Finally, the stench went through the concrete cinder block walls of the on-base housing, and Child Protective Services came in, cops came in, the pistols drawn, and the kids were taken away. What a nightmarish childhood for these two boys.
Well, think about, I love a lot our grandson Jason when he was 3 years old. One thing about heroin is that I noticed the people who are on heroin, when they come down, they sleep a long time.
Oh, really?
So if you have children, you're not taking care of your children.
Uh-huh.
And my grandson Jason was hungry.
Yeah.
He was only 3. All he knew was he took a can of, I don't know what kind of food it was, and he put it in the oven.
And turned it on.
He turned it on.
Oh, what happened there?
Well,
Did it
thank
explode?
goodness we got it before. We just
That'd
had
be
to
a bomb.
Right, exactly. Poor boy was hungry.
Yeah.
And he couldn't wake his parents up.
Oh, that's
sad. And
could not wake them up.
Couldn't wake them. No, he couldn't wake them up. They get when they come down, they sleep for a very, very long time.
Yeah, yeah.
And I really don't understand it. They have these. They sell them in $10 bags, I guess, or stamp bags or something or other. And that $10, multiplies because, again, it changes your physiology.
Oh, yeah.
And, so it can't be a recreational drug. It can't.
Well, Jim, as being such an expert on heroin as you seem to be.
No. Well, unfortunately, I've seen. Well, back when I was young, a heroin junkie was a guy that was scratching his shoulder with some dark shades on in the corner somewhere. Now, it's some you might be your next door neighbor.
Oh, it's all over.
Right.
But now, okay, the accusation is that marijuana is a gateway drug to heroin and meth and everything. What would you say to that?
No, any gateway is in your head, first of all.
Right.
I mean, if I was going to say anything's a gateway drug, I would say it's alcohol. However, how you want to go and the risk you want to take in your life is in your own mind.
And in your heart.
And in your heart.
Yeah.
If you know something is dangerous, I mean, I've had heroin put in front of me.
Yeah.
And you better get that away from me. That's all I know. I mean, this guy, I don't know. All I know is a whole lot of white powder.
Yeah.
He said it was heroin.
Oh, my God.
And that's the problem. I don't know what it is.
Wow.
And that's what I'm saying. He told me, go ahead and snort the line. I was like, no, I don't want none, man. Get this out of my face.
Get behind me. Yeah.
Right. I know. There's lines you just, look, I don't want to die. One thing about heroin, well, I'll just say it this way. You can eat too much food and you go to bed, you got a stomach ache.
Yeah.
If
you eat too much food, you can become obese, you get a heart attack.
Well, I'm talking about just a one night deal. I don't mean you
eat a whole pizza
time.
Or a whole half-gallon ice cream.
But the thing is, if you take a heroin, you can't say, oh, I took too much.
That's right. Yeah.
Can't do that. You know what I mean?
Whereas with marijuana, it doesn't hook you.
No.
I can say this, I occasionally smoke a pipe.
Right.
And in some of my earlier videos, you see me smoking a pipe.
Right.
But they don't put additives in pipe tobacco.
Right.
And I haven't smoked a pipe in, 2 or 3 months now.
Yeah.
You don't get the jitters, you don't get any withdrawal.
Right.
So
exactly.
I can certainly say this. They put additives in Marlboro, so you got to keep smoking. You're a junkie. But marijuana does not make people a junkie.
No, it does not.
Now, I will say this from my own experience, because I was abused as a kid, and I had therapy with a professional therapist, and she said, here's a dangerous combination. Okay, small children, a boyfriend or stepfather. Okay, that's the first thing. Boyfriend or stepfather alone with small children. The wife, the mother's at work. Okay. Alcohol and pot. This is the combination of alcohol, pot, and boyfriend, stepfather, and small children. she said in her experience that could be a dangerous combination. But then again, you have to have that wickedness in your heart to begin with to want to molest a child. And when you have no more inhibitions,
marijuana, alcohol, marijuana, nor alcohol makes a person a pedophile. Either you're going to be that way or not. And, obviously, when you're babysitting, you can't get to the point where you're so inebriated you can't watch the child. But as far as any type of pedophilia, that's a sickness that, only a psychiatrist can help with. That has nothing to do with no drug, actually. That's another story altogether.
I would think so. I guess if somebody has those, the thing is, like anything else, if you have a tendency in that direction, then certain things could make you more likely to act on it.
Well, that's true. And if I have a tendency to beat on women, and thank God I don't, but if I have a tendency to beat on women, and all of a sudden I had about 10 drinks of Jack Daniels, I probably might get to whacking, and that's the problem right there. You already have to have that in your heart, and then then I would admit the alcohol, could come out, and
Well, I think that the thing that which you and I both want is we want to restore God and the family and values in our country.
That is the most important thing.
And then the reason why people are drinking themselves silly, and especially these college kids are doing a lot of binge drinking.
Right.
And people are smoking a huge amount of pot. Other people are eating huge amounts of comfort food because they feel anxiety and they're eating Doritos or, corn chips or something else. They're munching constantly. It's because they're miserable. We have a huge percentage of the population feels misery and anxiety, unloved, unappreciated.
I think that's why we have the heroin problem that we have. Again, there's something symptomatic. The problem is not heroin. The problem is why. It's not the drug itself. It's why they want to use the drug, especially knowing the dangers and that ultimately it could kill you. And that's what we have to get to. What is the root of the problem of the misery that people are suffering, that they risk their life for? I don't know what the high is like for heroin or how long it is or anything like that. I can only imagine they sell them now in $10 stamp bags. $10 don't take you very far on anything. So I can't imagine that it would be the same thing with a kind of drug like this, especially since I told you that from what I understand, that in heroin you only have about a 3% purity rate.
Yeah. Actually, interesting, it was the German chemist who invented heroin. He was just experimenting. And when he realized how dangerous it was, and it was addictive, then he, same one, invented methadone.
Yeah.
But methadone is very dangerous too. I can tell you a tragic little story of that. Again, I'm not saying smoke pot. I'm saying there are far more dangerous drugs than pot, including alcohol.
Right, I agree. If I had somebody behind me driving, I'd rather have that person smoking a joint than drinking a bottle of liquor. I tell you that.
Yeah. But anyways, I'll just, because we're going to be running out of time in about a minute, but on tonight's show. But I think we need to have a society where people have nice marriages, good paying jobs.
They're lovely.
Obedient.
It was
children,
like that at one time.
And
we weren't far from that, John, when we were growing up.
Yeah.
The family unit was intact.
Yeah.
Kids weren't, they were very respectful. We come from a generation where we show respect. I mean, my father just passed away in April, but I guarantee you, right before he passed away, if I'd have said anything disrespectful to him at his age, he'd let me know. Believe me.
Actually, I had a little anecdote because I wrote a lot at one time about the Emperor Napoleon of France. When he went back to Corsica to visit his mother, and he was already the dictator of France, about to become the Emperor of France, and so he kind of started around, and his mother asked him some question, and he gave her a slightly supercilious answer. She slapped his face in front of his officers, and he was proud of it. He says, "That's still my mother."
Yeah, right. That's right. That's right.
Well, listen, we're getting our final music. Jim, thank you for being my co-host.
Sure, John, it's always lovely, daily. We really enjoyed. Good night, everyone. Or I should say, good morning, good night, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Have a great day tomorrow.
We'll talk to you Friday night, 8 to 9 Eastern Time. Good night, folks.